are you doing today? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Shelby, and today I'm going to be doing a recommendation video for you all. So today we're going to be talking about taboo books, and I'm going to be recommending some of my favorite taboo romance books. Now taboo is definitely one of my favorite types of romance to read. If it has any kind of element that is considered taboo or has any kind of like forbidden aspect to it, those are the types of romance books that I usually tend to gravitate towards. And I think it's mostly just because I don't see that type of thing in my normal like everyday life. So reading about it in a romance just kind of like heightens my experience. So yeah, so I really love taboo romance, and all of the books that I'm going to be recommending, they're all different types of taboo types of romance, but these are just kind of my favorites so far, at least, you know, of the different types of genres, subgenres from there of taboo romance. And I'll probably be making further recommendation videos that delve more into like the different subgenres, so like age gap, or I've already made like a student teacher one, or just in general like other types of taboo elements, if you will. Okay, so the first one that I want to recommend, I read this one pretty long ago. That's going to be Stepbrother Inked by Victoria Blaze. Victoria Blaze is a pen name or another name for C.M. Stunich, which she mostly now I think writes under the name C.M. Stunich, but her first, like some of her earlier works were more written by Victoria Blaze. Anyway, so as the title of this one suggests, this is a stepbrother romance, and the inked part comes in because he is a tattoo artist. So I really like this one. This is probably one of my favorite stepbrother romances that I've read, just because the two characters, their parents end up getting married when they are fairly young. They're like 8, 10, somewhere around there. They're really young when their parents get married and they become step siblings. But both of the characters have been into each other. And then as they grow older, that just becomes more and more like them wanting each other, but they know it's wrong and that they shouldn't. So when they finally get together, which in this book, I think she's, I believe, in college. And then, like I said, he is a tattoo artist. And it's very spicy and steamy and very angsty. So that's another thing that I like about a lot of like taboo romances. And what I like about this one too is the angst was really high. The emotions were really high because they're not supposed to be together. And I also really like this because the parents do find out, and their parents are like still together and still love each other, and with no plans of like getting divorced or separated or one of them dying, which can tend to happen in some of the other like step sibling romances that I've read. No, the parents are still together, and when they find out, there are consequences, which I also kind of liked, that there were consequences. It wasn't just everything's hunky-dory, everybody's super happy about what happened. No, they're upset, and they have to try to figure out how they're going to go about this situation. So I really, really enjoy this one. And if you're interested in like, if you like step sibling type romances, I definitely recommend this one. Then the next one that I have to recommend is going to be Irish Kiss by Sienna Blake. This is an age gap romance. This is somewhat of like a guardian ward romance. This is about this girl and her social worker. she isn't technically like a ward of the state, but her mother is like a drug addict and doesn't really take very good care of her daughter. And I can't remember if she ends up going into foster care or not. But anyway, so she has this social worker. So she's known this guy since she was like 10 or so. And when they start out, like she's kind of wary of him, but he helps build her trust in him, and he becomes like her best friend, which also develops like she's got a little like crush on him. But when she kind of like makes a move on him and kind of lets him know that she likes him more than just like two pals kind of, and he quickly like shuts that down. He's like, you are a child, like that's not okay. And so she gets very upset about this. So then later they end up meeting back again, which she's still very young. She's like a teenager, and I know she is, because I remember checking, like she's very, very young, but I remember checking, I think this takes place in like Ireland, which would make sense because it's Irish, and I believe she, at the time, like later on where they meet again, she is of age, like consent age for Ireland. Which made me question, because I don't remember, I think she might have been like 16 or 17. But I was like, okay, per their laws, this is okay. So yeah, so she ends up coming back into his life, and they end up getting together, and it's so good. I don't know what it is about something with like, especially age gap type romances, where the person, like the hero, meets the heroine when she's like a child and starts to develop a relationship with him as a child, which, not that that relationship that they develop is sexual in any type of nature. It's more, it starts out as like a friendship kind of relationship, and then it develops later on in life into a sexual or romantic type of relationship. There's just something about that that I really love, and several of the books on here feature that. So yeah, so this one I definitely recommend, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about this one. I think it is a little bit older, but still, it's so good and I loved it. Then I have Priest by Sierra Simone. This is a wonderful book. This is a priest romance, as the title of the book might suggest. This is the priest and this woman who is coming into his church into the confessional. She is not a part of his church, but she has questioning some things in her life, and she is thinking about becoming a parishioner of his church. But some of the things that she is questioning and that she's having trouble with is things that she feels like she is a very sexual person, and she feels like she should feel guilty for certain things that she likes and that she's done, but she doesn't, which, in the process of her confessing a lot of this just ends up turning him on, because he's also into a lot of those things, but he gave them up when he became a priest. So this one is so good, and it also delves into the hero has to work through a lot of emotions throughout this book, delving into like why he went into the priesthood, and questioning like his faith and if this is the right path for him, since he is starting to have feelings for this woman. And it's just a very, very angsty, very emotional, and definitely very, very steamy read. I definitely recommend this one. It's so good. Then I have to recommend for you kind of a series. It's going to be the Taboo Treats series by K Webster. This is just a series of short little novellas that K Webster wrote. Basically, if you're interested in taboo scenarios, I think there's like probably at least 10 books in this series, and they all feature different types of scenarios. There's age gap, there's younger man, older woman, there's student teacher, coach athlete, I don't know, just any type of like forbidden type scenario. She's probably got one of the books in here for you. I really enjoyed this just because, like I said, I really like taboo, and I would recommend this if you're in the mood for something like that, but you don't necessarily want to go through like reading a full-length novel. These are just nice, short and sweet little stories, pretty smutty and steamy, and they have the type of scenario that you might be looking for. All of the books in this series do tie into each other, but honestly, you could read them. They're all mostly like standalones, and you could read them in any order. I read them in the order that they were published, but you absolutely don't need to do that. And if there's only one or a couple tropes that you're interested in, just pick those up, and you just don't really need to worry about the others or like figuring out what is going on. Like, you should be fine with that. And then along those lines, Katie Robert also has a similar series like K Webster, where she has this series called the Touch of Taboo series, where she has all these books that they're pretty well like novella length, and they just go through certain taboo scenarios. So like this one, your dad will do. This one is a girl and her ex-fiance, I think. It's either ex-fiance or ex-boyfriend. It's her and his dad, because she broke up with him and she wants to get revenge by sleeping with his dad. So these are also really great. There's one that a husband gifts his wife to his best friend. There's a dad's best friend, and then there's a guardian ward one, which that one I haven't read yet, but all of these are great if you're just wanting pretty much just something really quick and really smutty to read. These are perfect and will be right up your alley. The next one that I have to recommend is going to be Torn by Carian. This is the first book in the All Torn Up series, I think is what this one is called. And this goes back to like what I was saying, where the heroine has had a crush and a thing for the hero since she was a child. This is a dad's best friend romance. This is the heroine and the hero of the story. So the hero was there when the heroine was born because he was best friends with her dad, and I think her dad was like a teen parent. Like, I think they had her when she was like, when they were like 14, 15, like super duper young. But I believe he is also her godfather, and he's almost like kind of like a pseudo uncle to her, but she has had a crush on him just from the get-go, from childhood. She's always loved him. And then when they got older, she kind of continued to let her feelings know towards him. And as she got older is when he started to see her more as an adult, as a woman that he is starting to have feelings towards. And this is just absolute perfection. I love this. And this is another one where kind of situation similar to what I liked about Stepbrother Inked is that there are consequences to them getting together, which I loved. When the dad does find out about the relationship, he is not happy about it, which I appreciate because I feel like that is very realistic to how this type of scenario would go. So I did really like that in the book, but then that also really brings like the drama and the angst to the story as well. So this is just absolute perfection and I love this. The next one that I have to recommend is going to be Gravity by Sara Cate. I pretty recently read this one and oh boy, is this a complicated and crazy story. This is a love triangle, and this is about our heroine. She ends up, when we first meet her, she is hired by this man that she knows. So a few years prior to this, her sister ended up dying in a helicopter crash with said sister's fiance. So this man that is approaching her and wants to hire her is her sister's fiance's father. And he is wanting to hire her to basically kind of be his other son's companion, because ever since his son died and her sister died in this helicopter crash, his other son has just basically been wasting his life away, and the dad is worried that he's gonna end up killing himself, or he just wants to bring out the life in his son again and kind of revitalize him. So he's basically hiring this girl to be his companion and try to help him out with that. So of course she ends up sleeping with him, but then she also starts to have a relationship with the dad, who the dad, as they were like getting together, since her sister and his son were like getting married, and they would be together and have like family type get-togethers, the dad has always had a thing and a crush on the heroine of this story. So like I said, this is a love triangle, and she ends up having a relationship with the dad and his son. And she does, since like I said, it's a love triangle, so she does end up choosing one of them. And this also does feature a pretty big age gap as well with the father, that aspect of the love triangle. And yeah, and it's a wild ride, and I absolutely loved every bit of this book, and I highly recommend it. The next one that I have to recommend to you is going to be the new Camelot series by Sierra Simone. And the first one starts with American Queen. So Sierra Simone wrote this to be loosely based off of King Arthur, except it's more modern day times. We have our heroine, who is supposed to be like Guinevere, and she is getting married to the President of the United States. So King Arthur. But then there's also our Lancelot character, who is the Vice President of the United States. So the taboo nature of this is that this is a menage romance between the three of them. There is a little bit of an age gap between our heroine and the two heroes of this story. She is in love with both of them, but you know, she's getting married to the president, so she's trying to not give in to her feelings for the vice president. But then lo and behold, the president and the vice president have also had feelings for each other. So it's very, just all around, a very taboo situation. And I absolutely love this book, or this series, should I say. It's just absolutely wonderful. The emotions of this are so high, and the steam of this is really great. Sierra Simone is one of the best writers when it comes to steam and emotional type scenes, especially combining those together. And I just love this one, and more people should definitely read this book and the series because it's so good. The next one that I have to recommend is going to be Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This is another one that's more like boyfriend's dad kind of scenario. Our heroine and her boyfriend are having to move in to his dad's house because her boyfriend is a pretty shitty person and is terrible at responsibility, and they can't afford their place because of things that he did. So like I said, they have to move in with his father, which our heroine is really upset about this because she's a much more responsible type person. So as they're staying there, she starts to come to realize that her boyfriend is a really shitty person and she doesn't really like him. And she starts developing feelings for his father instead, and it becomes their romance. And I absolutely love this one. This is probably my favorite like boyfriend's dad type of book that I've read. This is also a slow burn type of story, but boy, when you get to the point where they finally get together, it just like steamrolls from there. So if you haven't read this yet, you definitely should pick this up because I think this is probably like a staple taboo romance book. Then we have Dark Notes by Pam Godwin. This is one of my all-time favorite books. This is a age gap romance, but this is also a student-teacher romance. So we have those two elements that make it really taboo. This is a girl who this book takes place in like, I think New Orleans area, and she is from like the wrong side of the tracks, very poor, but she is like a musical prodigy on the piano, and she wins like a scholarship to go to this more prestigious high school that can help her with her piano playing and make it more into like a more career, and she can have a more promising future for herself. So she ends up developing feelings and relationship for her piano teacher at this school, and he's definitely more of a curmudgeon type character, especially in the beginning, and then he starts to find out more about her and especially about her background, and he just wants to help her and wants her to do well. But then, like I said, they start to develop sexual type feelings for each other as well. There is elements of BDSM in this book, which is probably one of my favorite stories that features BDSM, just because I feel like the hero and the heroine use it more as like a healing experience for her. There are trigger warnings for abuse and trauma, just because like her background is just not a good scenario and she's not in a very good situation. So I loved that he was able to kind of take her out of that situation and help her with that. But yeah, I love this book so much. It's so good, and I highly recommend it if you haven't gotten onto this already. And then the last one that I have to recommend is going to be Welcome to the Dark Side by Giana Darling. This is the second book in her Fallen Men series. And this is one of the books that I will never not recommend. This is probably one of my top tier all-time favorite romances. I think about this book all the time. I love this so much. Zeus, who is the hero of this story, I would consider like a book boyfriend. I don't know if anybody can top him. He is my favorite, and this is definitely my favorite book of the series. So what makes this taboo is, number one, there is an age gap between the two characters. Our heroine is in high school, and our hero, like, she actually goes to high school with Zeus's two kids. Like, one of them is a little bit younger than her, and one of them is just a tad older than her, but she is essentially his kid's age. So there's that. And then this is also taboo because their love is definitely forbidden. He is the president of the local MC, and so they get in trouble with the law a lot. And her father is the mayor of the town. So them being together, even if they were like the same age, is not okay in this town, because her family is seen as the good side, whereas his is seen as the bad side, criminals, what have you. But then that's not really the case, as you might find out when you read this book. And I just absolutely love this. Oh, and this also goes back to what I was saying, where I like how the heroine and the hero start to develop a relationship when she's a child. That happens in this book because they meet at a shootout outside of this church. Like, her and her family are just getting out of church, and there is a coup kind of that is happening within the MC, and there's a shootout that takes place, you know, outside this church, and she gets caught in it, and he ends up saving her life and killing this guy that almost killed her. And then, of course, because of all of this, he ends up killing this guy. He goes to jail, but they become pen pals while he is in jail, because she sees him as her, he's her rescuer, and she idolizes him and just thinks the world of him. And so she writes letters to him while he is in prison. And then later on is when they kind of develop the more sexual type feelings for each other and get together. And like I said, this is just, I love it so much. Even just talking about this book right now makes me want to reread it again, because it's just that good. So there we go. Those are all of my favorite taboo scenarios, my taboo romance recommendations. If you have other recommendations of books that I haven't mentioned, because I know there are a ton that I read that I love, but they're not like, for whatever reason, I haven't put them on this list. But if you have recommendations, make sure to comment them down below. And if you like this video, give it a big old thumbs up. I really appreciate it. And if you want to see more videos from me, either more recommendation videos, or I do a lot of like unboxings and just a lot of different videos. If you want to see more from me, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you know when I post more videos, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye guys!